pilot? What's a pilot?
Well, the way they pick TV shows is they make one show. That show's called a pilot. Then they show that one show to the people who pick shows. And on the strength of that one show, they decide if they want to make more shows.
It's showtime!
What have you done? What have you done?
People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy.
God.
He said the age of heroes would never come again.
It has to.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
It's your responsibility. You're not prepared for this. I'm working on it.
This show is gonna be incredible.
So I'm Frank.
And I'm Stewart.
And we're here to talk about one of our favorite movies of all time.
Yes.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is Jack Slater.
This hero stuff has its limits.
And Jack Slater is...
Everybody down! Down!
the last action hero. The big ticket for 93.
I'll be back. Ha! You did not gonna say that, did you?
That's what you always say.
I do?
Watching it today, it still gave me goosebumps, and I was trying to watch it from the point of view of seeing it for the first time, but also being a huge fan of it. Because I would pause and look at the little notes. But first, I think we should talk about how we first saw the movie.
So the way that I had never seen Last Action Hero before. I think it was like 2 years ago, maybe. I remember it coming out when I was a kid, but I was young and I wasn't allowed. I don't think that movie is rated R.
No.
But like, it was still kind of like one of those movies that was in sort of like the danger zone of like, you know, my parents would have looked at it and been like, no, you're not watching that movie. I remember it coming out as a kid, but also Jurassic Park came out at the same time, and it was like everybody was much more interested in Jurassic Park than they were in Last Action Hero. And I was one of those people. Like, Jurassic Park was like the watershed movie of my youth. Jurassic Park was the Star Wars of my youth.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, that was the movie where the effects were so good and everything was so seamlessly done. When you watched it, you were like, this is the dawning of a new era. Like, that was the kind of feeling that I had, and I think that a lot of people, you know, in my generation had as well.
Yeah.
I remember some people that I was friends with, or maybe just was acquaintances with at school or whatever, saw it and said that they thought it was dumb.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and director John McTiernan present Columbia Pictures' new action-adventure fantasy, Last Action Hero.
It's a bomb!
So I just wrote it off as that, you know, for years and years and years. Didn't really care, kind of forgot about it. And then what happened was the Aero Theater, which is part of the American Cinematheque, which is like a organization here in Los Angeles that owns the Aero, and they also own they used to own the Egyptian Theater, but now like Netflix owns it or leases it from them or something. The American Cinematheque puts on all these screenings year-round, obviously not now during COVID, but they ran the Aero and the Egyptian as full-time repertory theaters.
Yeah.
And they would have, the American Cinematheque would put on a program every year that was a 70 millimeter print film festival.
Ooh.
And every year I think it would go for like a month, maybe. They would show different 70 millimeter prints. Some of them were kind of the same every year. Like, they would show 2001: A Space Odyssey every year. There was like a really awful 70 millimeter print of The Thing that they would show that was like, supposedly was like the only one in existence, but the colors were really badly faded on it. And according to other people, I never bothered to go and see it.
Oh,
but according to other people,
I actually thought you saw it because I remember you tweeting about it, or maybe you retweeted. I heard about this print somewhere. somewhere. I don't know where.
I may have retweeted something about it, yeah. But even, it's interesting because even the American Cinematheque, like, when they put the tickets for that specific show up, they would say, like, in their materials and their tweets and stuff, like, this print is badly faded, like, the colors are not good, like, please be aware of that before you buy a ticket. But I had heard from some other people that did go see it that it didn't, just didn't look very good. It's not really worth paying money to go see. But long story short, one of the double features, oftentimes they would double feature these movies, unless it was something like Space Odyssey, which is already kind of long in the first place.
Or Magnolia.
But oftentimes they would double feature these movies. They did a double feature with Aliens and Last Action Hero.
What? Why those two?
That was the double.
That's interesting. Why are those two?
I don't know. I think part of it is because they didn't have a lot of options, probably.
Okay.
I mean, there's only so many 70 millimeter prints from, like, back in the day, that are still around and still, like, still look halfway decent, obviously.
Right, that makes sense. Okay.
So I think the reasoning was like, well, these are two action movies, we'll just put them together.
Right.
Yeah. And so they hosted this 70 millimeter film festival at both theaters. So some things would play at the Arrow, some things would play at the Egyptian. This happened to play at the Arrow, which luckily enough is, like, not far away from where I work. And me and a friend went to go see this. My draw was Aliens. Like, I had never seen Aliens on the big screen. This was a 70 millimeter print. I thought, that's kind of cool. That's, maybe something interesting. Normally nowadays, a lot of times when you see a lot of these repertory things, it's DCPs. That's what you're getting. Yeah. And so it's rare to see a film print, you know? So I thought, I'm going to see Aliens. I'm going to see it on film. The 70 millimeter, I guess, is a bonus. And Last Action Hero, whatever, maybe I'll stay for it, maybe I won't, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so we watch Aliens, it's fantastic. Theater is completely full. My friend is like, I'm staying for Last Action Hero, I love that movie. So I'm like, okay, I'll stick around. And stuck around and just, like, absolutely fell in love with it.
Wow.
Just saw it for the first time on a big screen,
At the age you'd probably really appreciate it too.
Yeah, because that's the thing is, and we will probably get into this further along in the conversation, but had I seen it when it came out, I would not have understood the references that it was making. I wouldn't have understood the jokes. I wouldn't have understood the movie in general, and I would have thought it was stupid.
Right.
I wouldn't have understood what was going on in the film. But now, as an adult and somebody who has seen a lot of movies and has that sort of, like, knowledge and experience in my head, like, I could watch it and actually appreciate it for what it was.
And also, being that young age, you probably didn't know about the action movie tropes, because you didn't see those as a kid, or your parents might not let you see those.
Right, because at that point in time, I never would have seen a Die Hard or a Lethal Weapon or Predator or, any of those things.
Yeah.
I think the first rated R movie that I saw was Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and that was several years after it came out in theaters. So I would never have understood the tropes and stuff that it's sort of poking fun at.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be back. Ha! You did not gonna say that, did you?
That's what you always say.
I do?
I saw it at a very young age because my mother, she let me watch whatever, basically, because she was one of those people who would record tons of movies off the free HBO weekend. Each tape could hold at least 3 movies. So it was like Terminator 2, What About Bob, and Rambo 3. And they would just roll into the next one. That's just one example. Some other examples are like Tentacles, Orca, and Jaws 2. So that's why that's like my trifecta. Like, I need to watch those together. They all seem to be in the same universe.
That's the Frank Ireland trilogy right there.
And I grew up with like action. Like, I grew up with some action movies. I shouldn't say a lot, but I grew up with some. I grew up with. I've been doing research on this. I believe the first movie I saw in the theater was Cliffhanger. I really do. Because I remember that opening scene and like, you're not going to die. And I watched Terminator 2 at a very young age. I remember watching Terminator 1 at a very young age. I watched The Thing at a very young age. So I was into Yeah, it was on the same tape with Care Bears, so take that. Yeah, I grew up with some action movies, and there was a time where I would keep renting Commando. I think I rented it twice. But my mom realized that was too violent, so she maybe stopped renting that. Which it is. It's insanely violent.
It's just funny that, like, that's where she drew the line. She was like, that's a little too much.
Yeah. When I said I watched The Thing, I do believe it was a TV edit, just saying that.
Oh, okay.
I do believe so. I do believe so. There's a history of watching Arnold movies, because I would rent Commando. I knew of Twins. I knew of Kindergarten Cop. Oh, my God, I watched Kindergarten Cop a lot. So Kindergarten Cop, Terminator 2, I'm aware of these movies. So it's kind of years later. I was trying to, trace it back, because it's definitely after 94, because True Lies was already on VHS. So my aunt was moving, and she left some of her items at my grandmother's house. And there was this box of VHS tapes that were like brand spanking new. She hardly watched them, and she never really came back to grandma's to pick them back up. And in that box was like Terminator 2, Point Break. But the things that caught my eye were the ones with Arnold, because I grew up with Arnold. I knew Terminator 2. I liked Kindergarten Cop. I liked Terminator. And I was like, I want to check this out. So I checked out True Lies and Last Action Hero, because it's prominent. Him on the cover, Schwarzenegger. Yeah. And it was a gateway movie, because I would look at the back of the boxes, both True Lies and Last Action Hero, and I would see the names of, okay, it's John McTiernan. John McTiernan made this movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger was in this movie. This guy wrote this movie. So it was like Shane Black wrote this. Okay, James Cameron made that. Oh, James Cameron made Terminator. Oh, Arnold was in this movie. Oh, he wrote this, or, Zach Penn. And like, I just learned all the different names, and that's how I started learning about movies, was just from Last Action Hero. And I loved Last Action Hero. I watched it so many times as a kid. I thought Jack Slater was like just the coolest. I was watching it today, and I was just trying to put myself back in that mindset. And that VHS is so ingrained in my memory. I totally realize now that you probably didn't get it when I shared that clip of Arnold talking about working out, because that was on the VHS tape.
Okay.
Yeah, because the opening of the VHS tape, it plugs My Girl 2, because Danny Manigan's in it. I forgot his name. Is it Austin O'Brien? The actor's name?
Yeah, I think so. It's Austin something.
He was in My Girl 2, so that's advertised in the trailer. And then after that, they showed Arnold like teaching kids, like, I want to pump you up. And it's like some program he had where he was training kids to work out, and like, I'm watching, and stuff like that. It's weird. I always wondered about it, though. I'm like, wow, Arnold goes out to schools? I wonder if he'll ever go to my school. Meanwhile, he probably just went to one school, and that was it, you know what I mean? So they had that, and they advertised the soundtrack, which we'll get to, and they advertised a video game, which I never played, and they didn't show any game footage, because apparently it sucked really bad, so they just showed like a kid playing it. And then that was the intro of the VHS, and the movie would start and whatnot. But yeah, I love the movie, and I just remember watching it and like, oh, I didn't recognize that person. Oh, it's the guy from Terminator 2. Oh, I didn't recognize her. She's in Twister. Just like different people and character actors that I realized that were in the background that later would become famous. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's my origin story of it.
Jack Slater won.
What's winning got to do with this?
No, the very first Jack Slater.
You told your dad.
I didn't tell anyone. I don't even know this kid.
So, I don't know if you read it, but I sent you an article about there was like Empire did a piece on it.
I did read it, yes. I read it today.
Yes.
Very, very good, very informative. I actually, by the time I was done with it, I wish it would have gone deeper.
Yes, same here. because I was just wondering, like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. And years ago, I did read the Last Action Hero script. I believe it was 2011, 2012. It was right around that time where this article came out. And I remember not liking the original script.
When you say original script, are you talking about the one that they're talking about in the article where it's like the original writers?
Yes, Zach Penn and whoever the other person was. I forget who.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, it goes like the movie theater guy was more of an evil creep who seemed like a demon, I guess. And then at the end, like, Danny Madigan becomes like the demon, I believe. Like, he becomes super violent. And then Arnold has to stop him, or whoever, Arnold Strongo, whoever the character was. Which is a terrible name, by the way. I just... they mentioned it in the article. I'm like, that's such a stupid name. And when they mentioned that it went through so many rewrites, and other people were adding their own jokes, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Because if you watch the movie... like, there's a specific tone in the movie of what they're trying to do. But then there's other odd and ed movie references in there, like the cameos from the T-1000 and Basic Instinct. But then somehow, like, they make a joke that Arnold is not in Terminator 2, you know, but yet the T-1000's in the movie. So it's like a contradiction.
Well, they're not... Yeah, but they didn't say that Terminator 2 didn't exist. They just said that Sylvester Stallone was in Terminator 2.
I know, but the T-1000 would still be the same actor, and yet he cameos in Last Action Hero.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying now. Yeah.
And not only does he cameo in it, but another Terminator 2 character cameos in it. One of the security guards from Terminator 2 who says, "Gibbons, you can't leave the desk this." He's in the movie as like the same character, basically. And I was like, oh, that's wild, man.
Yeah. He's the one who's like, who tells Slater that his wife is on the phone, right?
Yes.
Hey, Slater! Is your ex-wife on too?
Apparently he was Edward Furlong's acting coach in Terminator 2 as well, which I find weird.
Really?
Yes. I did some research, and I'm now realizing as I'm doing research, there's one main actor I forgot to look up. And he's in all the McTiernan movies, which I'm like, ugh, I should have looked him up. He's in it because he's in this movie as a background character, and he has like one major moment in this movie.
It's got words. Vengeance is. Don't touch!
This movie has a lot of references to other McTiernan movies, and like some blatant and some that are like, oh, I get that. That's amazing. You know?
Speaking of background, one of the things that I found hilarious about that article was that they invited one of the original writers to be like a cop in the background.
Yes.
And then he found out that McTiernan was framing everything to where he wouldn't show up.
Yes, he wasn't in the shot. And I was thinking that too when I was watching the movie. I'm like, oh my god, so that writer is on the set, not in the shot.
Yeah.
That's, oh my goodness.
That is epic trolling, dude.
Yes. Because I guess he really didn't like the original script. I don't blame him, because it was kind of crap. I really don't blame him. Because they were trying to say, like, oh, yeah, original script is good. I'm like, that is not good. I'm glad it turned out to be this wonderful, wonderful mashup of a thing that it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I love it, you know?
Yes.
And I know that, like, after reading that article, I know that everybody involved is looking at it like this was such a pain in the ass, and like some people think it's garbage, but it's just I love it, you know?
Yes.
And that kind of stuff happens sometimes where it's like the movie that you love, you know, the people who made it are like, no, it sucks. I hate it. Like, why would you ever like that, you know?
Yeah. So let's start with the movie, because I got my notes here. And it goes all in order.
Let's talk about the movie.
So, Stewart, let's talk about the movie. Okay. So first things first, the frickin' logo. This is the first time that they used that Columbia Pictures logo.
I mean, I'm not trying to piss in your cornflakes or anything, but at a certain point, like, all that stuff runs together. So, it's like, the first time they use like this or that logo for me is just like, I don't know.
Oh my God, Stewart. So do you have any notes for this opening scene?
The only thing that I really wrote for the opening scene is the fact that it sets up who Jack Slater is, very quickly,
yes,
and very efficiently, and it lets you know basically immediately, like, this is a film that you're not supposed to take seriously. It's like Die Hard is a movie that you are supposed to, like, no matter how ridiculous some aspects of it may be, like, you are supposed to take it seriously.
Right.
This movie is not serious.
Yeah.
We're making fun of all those other movies, and they do it like immediately. That first scene, it's like even just the shot of the captain like popping up into screen and he starts yelling.
Yes.
Like again, probably I would not have understood that as a kid.
Right.
But seeing even the first time I saw the movie a couple years ago, just that scene like automatically got me into the mood.
Yes, because that opening scene, I think, is one of the best opening scenes of an action movie, because there's so many cops, a ridiculous amount of cops that I love for the situation.
It was like The Chase.
Yes.
That scene at the Mexican border in The Chase, where they've got like every single cop from LA and San Diego like all lined up.
It's so amazing. I like the handheld use of it, where it's like running through the cars and everything. And with that amount of police, they should have no problem taking down the Ripper, because he's not superhuman. He's just some creep holding kids hostage.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just great. I don't know if you noticed, it was his first movie appearance. The actor from The Truman Show, Noah Emmerich, he was the one who played Truman's friend.
Oh, yeah. Like the blondish-haired guy?
Yes.
Sir! Secure the sidewalk! No one in out! Yes, sir.
And I did research and found out that was his first movie, or at least Wikipedia says so. Maybe it's wrong. But this was his first movie, right? Like maybe 2 before Copland, which I believe where he took off, because he was also in other movies like, Truman Show, Frequency, and my personal favorite, Cellular. I don't know if you've ever seen Cellular.
I have never seen Cellular.
It's a little fun movie. It's the guys who made Phone Booth were like, hey, there's a new thing about cellular phones. Let's try to do something with that, because we did with the phone booth. And I think it's fun. It's got like Chris Evans in it, Jason Statham. God, what's her name? Kim Basinger. Yeah, she's in Cellular. And, the funny thing about this Captain Decker, other than being a reference to Fred Decker, who wrote Monster Squad, Decker was also a captain in another cop spoof movie that came out the same year, Loaded Weapon 1, National Lampoon, which I found was funny.
Okay, so that is actually something that I want to talk to you about, but not like... I'll bring it up a little bit later, because I have a theory about Last Action Hero, and it sort of has to do with Loaded Weapon.
Ooh, I like this already. I have, as I tweeted earlier, I have like a whole page of notes just from the opening scene, because I was like, there's so many things I want to bring up. The Jack Slater theme, called Jack and the Ripper. That is like one of my favorite pieces of music. It's by Michael Camden and this guitar person called Buckethead, where he wears like a KFC bucket on his head. And
that guy?
Yeah.
That guy played with like Guns N' Roses, I think, for a while.
Yep. I love the exaggerated sounds during this opening scene. Everything sounds like really meaty. Whenever what's his name? The Ripper lifts up his axe, it always goes like...
But this one can.
So I love that.
Yeah.
I found it funny that his son is named Andy, because everyone's was named Andy. There's like Child's Play where it's Andy Barclay, the little boy, and then there's Andy from Toy Story. So I was like, that's funny. I never realized that. Oh, also, it takes place on Christmas, because it's Shane Black.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That was actually something that I got this time that I hadn't previously gotten.
Yes.
Was
it's very subtle.
Yeah, I was like when he says something about Christmas, I was like, oh, it's because it's Shane Black, isn't it?
Yes. And there's like Christmas trees and like reindeer on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the whole opening scene is so amazing. And the thing where it kind of goes a little overboard for me, like, oh, it's too spoofy, because here's the thing, I know how you said not to take this movie seriously, but I don't want the movie characters to know that they're not supposed to take it seriously, because as Jack Slater is cartoonishly pulling all these guns out, there's a comedic cutaway to the Ripper's face, like, seriously, dude? Because he thought he was just
You're
joking.
packing that much?
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of wanted him to take it seriously, because in this world it's supposed to be, they think this is real, you know? So just to finish up the opening scene, let's see, I like how the music track switches, because as it jumps from the movie to the real world, like the track like scratches a little bit, and it goes out of focus, like, because that's when the camera goes out of focus and the kid's like, focus, and then the audio changes. I love that little different, like how it transitions from the real world to the movie world.
Focus! Hey, come on! Focus!
You dove deep into this.
Yes, because I paused and I wanted to see some of the background posters. Like, there was something I noticed with this viewing where in Danny Madigan's apartment there is a poster for the Seventh Seal.
Yes.
That sets up the end of the movie. I was like, holy shit, they set that up. He also has a Jack Slater teddy bear, which I love.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yes, it's a teddy bear that's wearing a red shirt with blue jeans and the little black hat that's supposed to be like the police cap.
The one that he wears when he's in the real world.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the bear is wearing it. So, yeah, there's tons of things I noticed with this viewing. I was like, oh my god. So what's your next note for the next scene you have?
I wrote that I love the way that they set up Danny in two scenes. The first one obviously being the transition from movie into real life.
Yes.
And then the scene that follows directly after, where it's like, you know, he's going to school. Well, I guess it doesn't follow directly after, but he goes to school and, you know, he's sitting there, and the teacher's trying to teach about Hamlet, and he's just like, you can tell he's just like not into it. And then she plays the little 16 millimeter movie, and that's the point where he imagines the Schwarzenegger version of Hamlet.
Hey, Claudius. You killed my father. Big mistake.
I think a big part of why I love this movie so much is because that character, like, I relate to that character a lot. Movies were always like a mixture of like emotional connection and also like escapism for me. And the way that he is, like, you know, he would rather be there than in school. Like, he's perfectly willing to skip school to go, you know, to go to the Pandora Theater or whatever and see this movie.
Yes.
I never skipped school for a movie, but like I probably would have.
I did.
Well, there you go. But I was definitely the kid who was like, you know, in the classroom was like, I am not interested in what you're talking about. Like, I would rather dream about my own version of what this is. So yeah, I just love the way that they set him up in those scenes, because you understand who he is very quickly, and there's no, like, the rest of the movie, you're never questioning like why he is the way he is, because you get him.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Let's see. I have some notes for the scene. The teacher is actually Joan Plowright. She was actually Laurence Olivier's wife at one point.
Oh, wow.
So that's like a cool little reference that she's showing Laurence Olivier's Hamlet in class. The music cue that's in Hamlet when it goes... repeats later when he's robbed at the house.
Do it. I'll make it easier for you. Go ahead. Do it.
And you know how he says, don't talk, just do it. You know, when he's watching the movie, but in real life, he doesn't do it. But I thought that was interesting. I'm like, oh, it plants that little thing in your mind that it's supposed to connect those two scenes. I was like, that's great. Filmmaking. John McTiernan, you beautiful bastard. Oh my God.
Cinema!
Cinema!
Acting!
Genius!
Thank you!
And my next note here is the lighting. Oh my God, that's right. I'm like trying to read my chicken scratch. But when they go to the Pandora Theater and he starts going into his monologue about this frickin' movie ticket, I love the lighting of the scene. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but since it's like a broken down theater, it has like lights and like shop lights, and then like there's a bulb over here, or it's just like it's a shit theater because they're going to knock it down anyway. But I like how it's lit by that shop light, and then he's in the dark, and as he's going through his story, he walks into the light, and then the light perfectly hits the ticket. I was like, holy shit, freaking McTiernan and this cinematographer. Oh God, I have it written later in my notes.
I looked up the cinematographer's name is Dean Semler.
They did an awesome job just making that scene interesting and visually to look at, even though it's just like a huge information dump just to sell this idea about this ticket. And I think they did a wonderful job just filming it. I think it's like a oneer as well, because I think it just it starts on a wide, and then as it turns, like it goes around Danny, like the camera, and it kind of zooms in on, or you know, tights in on oh God, what's that guy's name? The projectionist. On his face.
It's Art Carney. I don't remember. I can't remember
Art
what
Carney,
the guy's.
No,
what
Art
the
Carney
character's
is
name
Uncle
is.
Frank's. Is Uncle Frank. Art Carney's that guy, I believe. Isn't it?
I don't think you're. Oh, you know what? You are right.
Because Art Carney's from the Honeymooners.
Hold on. Let me.
Frank.
Oh, Nick, and it's played by and he's played by Robert Prosky,
who is in the Michael Mann film Thief. And that's the number 2 Michael Mann thing, because you have Tom Noonan and this guy.
Yeah.
So there's a little cinema. Cinema!
Brilliant! Thank you! Thank you!
You already mentioned the name Art Carney. Art Carney plays Frank.
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 My second cousin Frank.
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 So what is your next note, Stewart?
I wrote that I love the fact that the real world is realistic. It may be a harsher version of New York City. I mean, I don't know, early 90s, it may have been that harsh. The way that they portray the real world really drives home the idea that this kid's life is like not great. You know, there is a reason why he escapes into these movies. It's not just that he's just some kid and like, you know, whatever he likes movies. It's like his father has passed away. His mom is working a job where it's like she's not really around. He doesn't really have any friends. He doesn't enjoy school. And it's like, in a way, like this is kind of it for him, you know?
Right.
It's like
he lives in the Travis Bickle universe.
Yeah. And he kind of needs the movies to survive. That's his mental way of getting through it all, I think.
Yeah. You're jumping way ahead of me, because my next thing was Benedict is one of the greatest villains ever.
Oh.
Do you have any thoughts on Benedict?
He is a great villain. I really enjoy him as a villain. I like the whole glass eye thing.
Yes.
I like the exploding glass eye that comes in later.
Don't touch!
The glass eye thing could have so easily been just a cheesy, like, add-on kind of thing, but they actually made it a legitimately interesting aspect of that character. That's what I would say about Benedict. I mean, Charles Dance, the guy who plays him, he's good in everything that he does. When you see him on screen, it's like, you know that he's going to deliver.
Yeah, I don't really watch much Charles Dance movies because I don't know if he appears in your Criterion movies, which I'm sure he does. But in like you know the of course Charles Dance is in the Criterion collection, of course. But no, like for me, Charles Dance is in like this, and then disappeared for like 30 years, and then came back in Godzilla King of Monsters.
Yeah, well, he does a lot of, to be honest with you, it's like he mostly does British British television and movies.
And I know people nowadays know him from that Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Which I do not know. I don't know.
But, you know, he was in Gosford Park. I don't know whether you've ever seen Gosford Park, but...
Oh my God, ages ago. I was just thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I kind of want to rewatch that.
And he's in Alien 3. He's the doctor that...
I totally forgot he was in that, Wes. Oh,
yeah.
Man. Yeah, you're right. You're completely right. Ugh, I'm an idiot.
He pops up every once in a while in, like, American stuff, but I think he mostly does British television and movies.
Yes.
If God was a villain, he'd be me.
The thing I liked about Benedict in this movie is that he's supposed to be that second in command that you're supposed to fight at the end of the movie. He's supposed to be that Carl, you know, or that second henchman that you usually fight before you fight the main bad guy.
Yeah.
And in this movie, he's not. He's the main guy because the main stupid guy, like, he's supposed to be just, you know, like fodder, you know what I mean? It's weird. It's like the roles are reversed in it. And Benedict is not a dumb guy. He is very smart. So smart, he starts realizing, like, wait a minute, something is very not right with this kid. Because how does that kid know who I am? There's no way that he would know unless he visually saw me. Mm-hmm. And then just how quickly he learns while being in the real world that the rules are completely out the window, that he could do anything he wants, and that he's quick enough to say, I'm going to go to the other movies and pull those characters out.
But if you do this right, the world is your oyster. Trust me. You can have complete freedom to do whatever you want, beyond even your wildest dreams. And you'll never have to go back to this film again.
And we get to one of my first questions for you, Stewart.
Okay.
Because when I was watching this movie, I'm like, hey, this would be an interesting topic, hopefully, to ask you. But do you think Danny likes these movies ironically or genuinely? Because when he's watching the movie and calls out,
he's okay, minor wound, both cops dead,
it almost seems like he's just watching it ironically. So do you think he likes Jack Slater genuinely or ironically?
That's a hard thing to say because he states the fact that he has seen all of these films multiple times.
Yes.
And I do think that there is an aspect of anytime you've watched something, you know, maybe more than like twice, you know, you start to pick up on all the little things, especially when there's a series of them.
Yeah.
I will say that, though, that I'm less inclined to say that it's ironic, because I think if it was ironic, he would just get tired of it at a certain point. Like when he's hanging out with Schwarzenegger, you know, in the movie world and even in the real world, he would just be like, you know what? I've seen this before, like, I'm done. I just don't care, you know. Yeah. But I think so I would say because of that, I would say that it is not an ironic love, but a true passion for him.
But tonight, a magic ticket, it's a passport to another world, will get Danny closer to the action than anyone ever dreamed.
Holy cow! I'm in the movie!
There's a scene in the trailer where they show an alternate take of how Danny Madigan gets to the back of the car. The alternate take that's in the trailer that I can't even believe was filmed literally shows Danny Madigan falling into the back seat. There's like a bad special effect, but it's definitely not finished visual effects. But you can just tell that's the alternate take of how they had Danny land in the back seat of the car, and it's the worst.
That's one thing. This is just kind of an aside, but I don't know how you were watching it, but I have the Mill Creek Blu-ray.
Yes, I have that too.
Yeah, that's one of the only things that bothers me. I don't know if it's like that on the Sony Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But there are, whatever source they got this from, it's like there's definitely some special effects shots that like were not cleaned up.
Yes,
you know, before they did this. Yeah, there's super grainy, or there's one literally where I think it's Arnold falling off of the roof of his daughter's house.
Got to catch the red eye.
And you can see where it's like they rotoscoped him into that. It just doesn't look like they finished it or something. I don't know how to explain it, but
and that's another weird shot in the movie too when he's carrying Danny and the bike down the street.
Benedict's got the ticket.
That's too bad. I wanted it for my collection.
I think it may have had to do with the fact that like a lot of these effects were sort of like pre-CGI, you know, when they were just doing stuff with green screen and like rotoscoping and stuff like that. Yeah. So, you know, once you get a couple of generations lost in there, it's really hard to bring that back. Stuff looks grainy, it looks desaturated, you know. There's a lot of problems with it, and I think, especially from what that article was saying, it sounds to me like they didn't have a lot of time to do any of this. You know, they basically finished filming. They say in the article that they only had like 3 or 4 weeks to edit, which I'm sure that they were probably editing some stuff as they were shooting. That's an almost ridiculous amount of time to have to finish an edit and do special effects and make prints of something to get it out to theaters.
This was basically almost an assembly cut. I was wondering if they're like, if they had more time, I wonder if they could tighten it down.
It would be interesting if somebody could hand McTiernan some money and be like, go make a director's cut of this. You know, finish whatever you want to finish, because there was in the article, he said something to the effect of like some of the scenes were basically not even edited. They were just master shots straight from the camera. Yes. So it was like they would shoot something, they would like develop the film and basically put it directly into the edit without like, they didn't add any other angles to the scene. It was just like they just took the master shot and said, boom, there it is. That's it.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about the one scene where it just seems like they didn't know how to edit it, so they just threw like the best takes and like, all right, we're done. Is when they're driving down the road to Leo the Fart and they have to explain everything that happened off screen.
They broke in last night. They cut Leo open like a turkey, stuffed him with TNT. He goes off at the funeral and takes out the entire Torelli mob all at once. Vivaldi owns the town.
That's what all this has been about. Vivaldi's gonna blow up that funeral.
Because I was watching this during this time, I'm like, man, that's like a leap of faith. That, all right, hopefully the audience is with you at this point, that you could just totally drop all this like Leo the Fart crap that has not been in the movie at all to this point in one scene where they're just talking about it in the car. I was like, oh my God.
What would be great is to get McTiernan and Austin O'Brien and Schwarzenegger into a room together and have them do a commentary.
There should be, like a Shout Factory release.
I think it would be awesome to hear what they have to say, like, you know, 20-something years after the fact.
Yes.
So
I think I would like to hear John McTiernan, because it sounds like he still enjoyed the movie for what it is. Shane Black sounds like he doesn't like anything it happened to be. Zach Penn wants nothing to do with it. And I think it's hinted that Arnold is disappointed in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a bummer.
Well, the weird thing about it is like when I read that article and it was talking about how, he signed up to do the film, but there was all this stuff that he wanted changed.
Yeah.
And they kept sort of changing things throughout. And it was just like, as much as I love this movie, when I read things like that, I'm like, did you really want to be a part of this movie? Because you signed on to it, but yet you want to change it so much that it's not even the thing that you signed on to.
I think he liked the premise, so they just had to change the story. They liked the premise.
Yeah.
Because the premise is there in the original script. It's just a sucky story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's why. I think they couldn't just, rip it off, because that's probably another lawsuit. So they just have to buy the script and then make their changes to it. And I think he definitely wanted to change his career path, because he definitely wanted to do more family-oriented films. I'm assuming after... because even Terminator 2 is sort of almost family-friendly. Almost. I'm not going to say it's fully family-friendly, but it's almost. It's a softer Terminator. And he did Kindergarten Cop, the recently banned film from Portland.
Who would have ever have thought that there would be a point in time in this world's history where Kindergarten Cop would be a movie that would, that would not play, that somebody would be against Kindergarten Cop.
I definitely think they only watched the first 5 minutes, because it shows Arnold all grizzled, and he pulls him to that building, and he throws all those 20-somethings around, shoots the couch in half, and then sits down and says,
I like you, Cindy. I'm gonna be around you a lot. Days, nights, weekends, holidays.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. I'm gonna hang out with you until the end of time.
And then whoever was watching said, nope.
No,
I don't like this. This is over-policing. Meanwhile, it's the complete opposite. It's a family comedy. It has nothing to do with that first 5 minutes, which I believe that person watched.
Schwarzenegger, you're partnered up with the black and white digitalization of Humphrey Bogart.
What are your thoughts on the Humphrey Bogart thing? For what they're doing, does it make sense for that world? Because it just feels like another Hollywood rewrite. Like a joke that should not be in there.
I think that maybe like Humphrey Bogart is too specific.
Yeah.
For me, the jokes that work the best are less about specific things and more about the general sort of like genre kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think specifically about Humphrey Bogart, it's like it would have been, I think it would have worked better had they said like, oh, you're going to be partnered up with the black and white noir detective or something like that.
Yeah, like it should have been like Space Cop and 50s Detective.
Yes. Like you get the point, you get who it is without having to say it,
Right.
And I think that's the only reason that, the Basic Instinct reference works is because they're not calling it out, it just happens.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Because those are just supposed to be cameos, which I understand. But when it's like Humphrey Bogart, like that scene, I was like, no. Because that Humphrey Bogart is in the same boat as the cartoon cat.
Whiskers, where the hell have you been?
Sorry, Jack. Furball problem.
Hey, I don't know how you feel about the cartoon cat, but I've never been a fan of the cartoon cat. Like, I get it's supposed to be like probably a wink towards Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's very similar.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't make sense for that world, because even Danny Madigan's like, there's a cartoon cat. Hello? And nobody blinks an eye.
Yeah.
Which I'm like,
well, I mean,
what?
I think that's the point, isn't it? Is that there's these like really insane things that are happening, like things that would literally never happen in the real world. There's no way for a sentient cartoon cat to exist in the real world.
That sounds like a producer talking. That sounds like, I like this idea, we're going to keep it. And meanwhile, I'm one of the screenwriters like, no, can we take it out? It doesn't make any sense in that world. Like, I get what you're saying, but we're not making that movie. We're not making a loaded weapon.
That was a total producer explanation now that I think of it.
Yeah, it's like, no, but we're breaking the conventions of the film so everything can be zany. And it's like, no. Oh my God.
Thanks, Whiskers. I owe you one.
Forget it. You saved my fur plenty of times.
Well, this might be a good time to talk about my theory. As I was rewatching it, it just kind of dawned on me that Last Action Hero is basically a higher budget version of Hot Shots or like Major League.
I see what you're doing. Yes, I see it.
I see what you're doing.
I see it.
I don't agree with you, and I think it's ridiculous, but I see what you're doing.
No. I'm trying to think of like a modern, or because I'm terrible, Stewart. I have not seen Hot Shots or Major League.
Oh well.
So yeah, I'm trying to think.
You're not missing much.
Oh yeah, I know. That's why I haven't seen them. But I'm trying to think of like a better, so Hot Shots Part 2, if that was Stallone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Then this is like that's a good theory. Like, so if you were to make Airplane but hire all the people that made the airport movies,
yes, you'd pay like the top dollar director and you had like a big budget, because all these parody movies always have like no budget. You know, they always make them as cheaply as possible so they can make as much money as possible. But what if you made one of those movies and you actually did give it a big budget and you actually did have like the big star, Schwarzenegger being like one of the biggest stars in the world at the time.
The famous comedian Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger.
Just some time.
There was a whoa moment while watching Last Action Hero during this rewatch.
Okay.
On the VHS, it totally cut out this one line of dialogue from Danny.
Jack, it's a funeral for a guy named Fart.
Funeral?
That's what the VHS said. It's for a guy named Fart, and it says, a funeral? That's the line. On the Blu-ray, it's like,
Jack, it's a funeral for a guy named Fart. Hello?
Funeral?
The hello was totally not in the VHS, and I swear to Christ, it is not in the VHS. I remember watching that movie religiously as a kid. I do not remember hearing hello. So watching it on this Blu-ray just blew my mind. I was like, what the hell? Like, is it in a different audio mix? Is it like not in the main mono track or whatever it was on that VHS?
Probably, yeah. One thing that I did want to say was before we get too far, I guess, in the timeline of the movie, and maybe we've already passed this, but the chase. Excuse me.
Hey, come on, stay with me.
We're losing him. He's dying.
The chase sequence when he gets dropped into the back of Jack Slater's car.
Yes.
The chase sequence has some really amazing shots in it. That, like, I don't know why I didn't, catch on to it the first time. Maybe I was just like trying to take it all in the first time. But this time when I watched it, there's one specific one that that really stands out to me, and it's when he's driving the car down, I think it's like down the LA River, and they go up the side of it and they go over the side of it, and the camera is like, and I mean, I know that they're not actually doing this, it's like it's in front of a green screen or whatever, but the camera is like attached to the back of the car, and so the car like goes up and then starts to turn over and turn down, and you see like some truck or dump truck or something under him.
The Coca-Cola truck.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other shots like in that sequence that are just like awesome. that like you just don't really see a lot in other movies, and I think it's because people don't want to do them practically anymore.
The William Friedkin thing.
Yeah.
You do it in a computer.
Mark, you can do it in a computer. It's all computers now.
People love computers, Mark.
Just as good, if not better, on a computer.
Do you think that really?
Yeah, I do, and the audience does too.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's the best.
He's my favorite.
I love the scene where Benedict starts breaking the fourth wall, because that just shows that he realizes he's in a movie. Mm-hmm. He knows people are watching him, and he's taking full advantage of it and explaining his whole monologue.
If that little turd, Daniel Madigan, can move through parallel worlds, I can move through parallel worlds. In and out. In, steal whatever I want, and out again. Impossible to catch.
Meanwhile, the henchman is going in the background, like probably thinking, oh, Benedict's lost his mind. He's talking to himself.
And the henchman like comes up in the background and he's like,
You want me vacuum now?
No, thank you. But the pool could benefit from some attention.
Very good.
And that guy is Odd Job from Goldfinger.
Yeah, this movie has a lot of like character actors from other action movies, which I like, because of course Decker, he was in the 48-hour movies. He was even like in a James Bond movie, apparently, License to Kill. You also have Danny's mom. She worked with Walter Hill in the movie The Warriors. The Warriors.
Yeah, Mercedes Rule.
Yes.
I do want to say something about Mercedes Rule.
Yes.
That I found interesting about this movie is when Danny goes into the movie originally, you know, in the blockbuster scene, obviously, you know, they have the conversation about, you know, all the women in here are beautiful blondes. Well, you know,
that's
of course,
right.
it's
Where are the real
California.
women? Yes.
Yeah, where are the real women? And then you go into the real world, and you know, Mercedes Rule is his mom, and it's like she's an attractive woman.
Yeah.
But she's an attractive woman, but she's still the opposite of the California blonde, because New York is the opposite of California. Real life is the opposite of the movie.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I'm glad you caught that. Oh my God, dude. Because you're absolutely right. Because he even says, like, I never even talked to a woman before. I kind of like it. And then, like, the music. Who is that? That's Mozart. The guy that practice killed? I think I like this. Oh my God. I'm jumping ahead here, but at the end of the movie, okay, so Jack Slater's dying, right, in the movie world, and Danny's like, no, I can't leave you, and he's like, you got to live your real life, you know, don't stay here. I have to stay here in my movie world. They need me here, and I need to be here so you believe in me. And then it totally doesn't come with the ending speech he gives to Decker. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I love this movie. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
On this Blu-ray, I was watching the scene when they do that, the chicken scene in the alleyway with the taxi cab. You could actually see the cable that's pulling the taxi cab, so it lifts up.
Oh, really? I didn't even notice that.
Yes.
You are gonna die! Jack! What did I do?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that's what I was talking about too with the jump off of the roof. It's like there's several things in the transfer where it's like, I'm sure if Sony or Columbia or whatever would put a little bit of money into it, they could fix it and like make it nice. But I know that the studio probably could not give a crap about Last Action Hero. So
I don't know why, because there's so much potential. They get a franchise out of this thing.
I think the thing is like, you know, box office failures, it's very hard for those to go away. Right. And if this film could be rediscovered by a big enough new audience, like a new generation of people who really like demanded it, then they would probably take the time and like do it right. Because I think in that article, it was either in that article or somewhere else, it wasn't a huge flop.
Right.
Like, they basically made their money back, but it wasn't like a big blockbuster or anything. Right. So I feel like there's room there that if enough people could like rediscover this film and like become a cheerleader for it, then it was maybe change somebody at Columbia's mind.
Yeah.
So
that's possible. I don't know. We're in a different generation now. It's so weird. You know, they don't want to watch old movies, or maybe they do. I don't know, because they keep getting fed all this remake stuff, and in the fan editing world, just in my opinion, they don't deep dive enough when they make mashups. You have like 7,500 years worth of movies, and you're using like everything from the last 2 years. It's boring. You got like you have the world as your oyster.
Well, I could talk about that for a long time, but I think what it comes down to is there's a lot of there's a whole generation of people who have a giant megaphone essentially in the form of social media.
Yeah.
And they're diving into the shallowest end of the pool with movies and expecting to just be, you know, give me praise, give me adoration for this like, you know, mashup that I did, when it's like you said, it's like you just took like the most obvious stuff and put it together.
Right.
You know, you did the thing that everybody else would have done.
Right.
You know, where's the deep dive? Where's the good stuff? Because I think people like you and I, who essentially grew up before, like, I mean, internet was around when I was growing up, but at the same time, it's like it wasn't like it is now.
Right.
You know?
Me and you, we grew up with freaking magazines.
Yes.
Where we would that's where we got our information from. We got our information from books.
Yeah.
We got our information from like the AFI special that was on TV, because there was like a writer's block and they had nothing else to put there, so they put in an hour of AFI's 101 movies to see, or, you know, action and laughs, you know, and they just go through all these film things and just feed you all this information. And they had movies like this where they reference old films, and you say, okay, what inspired that? What can I see that they made, you know? And it's just, people these days just don't care, or it's like they don't go far enough. It's like, oh, I watched Christopher Nolan, that's it. And it's like, no, how about you watch what inspired him? You know?
Yeah.
That's why I love like interviews like by Paul Thomas Anderson. It's just like, you got to sit there with a pen and paper, because he'll name all these movies. That's what I do. I just write down every movie he mentions, and then I'll check that out at a certain point. You know, like, I still want to check out Putney Swope. I still want to check out, oh God, there's that movie they mentioned. It inspired Uncut Gems, or has something similar. It has, 70s movie. I forget which. It's like a gambling movie. That's all I can remember. I think you watched it, or maybe my friend Joel Walden watched it.
Oh, is it California Split?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was mentioned in one of the podcasts with Paul Thomas Anderson. And it's just like, there's a whole list of movies where I'm like, I gotta watch those, man. And even your list, I'm like, I know I have to freaking watch those. I need to watch Sorcerer. I need to watch Husbands. I need to watch all those movies. I need to get that in my diet. You know, I need to watch movies.
I need to get those vegetables in my diet.
Yes. Because I like my stuff, you know. I don't like... It's like I like watching my cult classics, but I need that. I don't know. I need that hidden gem, you know.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though, too. Is like the great thing about cinema, I think, is that there's so much different kinds of things going on in it, and you can really. if you dive deep enough, you can find films to fit like everything that you're going through.
Yeah.
You know? And that's a real treasure. I don't know that particularly happens with any other art form. Right. You know, I don't know that there's like, I don't know that I can name, you know, paintings or drawings or photographs that like correspond to moods and to life, life situations that you go through or whatever. You know, for me, you know, Cassavetes came through at a time when, you know, I was going through film school and everybody wanted to be Tarantino or Spielberg. You know, those were like, that was it, you know, and I needed something different than that. Not that I didn't like Tarantino or Spielberg, although I did go through a phase where I was like anti-Spielberg, but I have since repented from that sin.
Repent, son.
Yeah, repent.
12 Hail Marys.
12 Hail Spielbergs.
Yeah, Hail Spielbergs.
But you know, Cassavetes came along at a time when I needed something different, and it really got under my skin in the best possible way. And I still love that. You know, and I still love things like, you know, Top Gun, you know, or Wes Anderson movies, you know, or I don't know, Back to the Future or something like that. Yeah. I still love all those things, but at the same time, it's like there's little like some of the pre-French Connection films that William Friedkin did were really amazing. Like before he became a big Hollywood director. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I'm kind of lost in my soapbox here, I guess, but I think the point that I'm trying to make is the ocean of cinema is so deep.
Yes.
And it pains me when I see these people who don't care to bother to explore that ocean. Yeah. You know? They're like, oh yeah, I just watched this movie from the 80s the other day. Oh really? Have you seen this and that? No. I don't really watch anything a lot that hasn't been made in the last like 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, it just blows my mind, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, well, you liked that 80s film. You know that there's a lot of other 80s films, and there's also the 70s, which is like one of the greatest generations of American filmmaking ever. You know, oh well, I don't really get into stuff that's that old. You know, and it's like, come on.
One of the things that really bothers me is whenever anybody praises the new Planet of the Apes trilogy, because I think as well made as those movies are, they are so fucking generic. They are so modern day action blockbuster. I grew up with the original Planet of the Apes. The original series is so much more interesting than the new trilogy, just because each one is so vastly different. People don't know this because they refuse to watch the old ones because they see them as corny, they see them as cheesy, but there is so much more to get out of it than the new ones. And we have totally gone off the rails. But I feel like this is all valid for Last Action Hero, basically, because it's all film, it's all cinema, and it's all like a reference and connecting to the next generation, because that's what this movie is basically, because it's an amalgamation of all these different film things, like the Seventh Seal. You have Mozart brought up from Amadeus. You have Dracula referenced. You have Wizard of Oz brought up because this movie's basically a modern day Wizard of Oz telling. Oh, like you have Odd Job from the James Bond movies. There's just so many elements in this movie and play, and it's like you have to love cinema in order to catch all of it. Even how they parody Hamlet movies in that scene. You know?
Yeah.
There's so much going on here with Last Action Hero that I love. It's just...
Yeah, and I think, again, that goes back to what I said in the beginning of, like, if I would have seen this as a kid, I probably would have not liked it. Seeing it as an adult, I'm just like, that was part of why I fell in love with it so much. Because I know, like, I know when I said that I really liked it, you seemed, like, genuinely surprised.
Yeah, I just found it interesting. Like, wow, Stewart? Like Last Action Hero? Because it just seemed like something like, I wouldn't give it the time of day, you know? But it's interesting that you liked it. It's really cool. But yeah. So hang on, where are we at here?
I have no idea.
We're in New York.
Jack, it all makes sense. No, actually makes absolutely no sense, but I'll try to explain to you.
Do you think the characters in Last Action Hero have memories of the movie playing over and over again? Because when Jack the Ripper is at the end of the movie and he has Danny Madigan, he says,
Now, we've played this number before, haven't we, Jack? Now, let's see, what comes next? You throw the gun away, right? We did that part, and then you tell me to let the kid go, and I'm getting bored. Why don't we just skip to the end?
Does he remember that? Does he remember dying over and over again? Because earlier in the movie, when they're in the stairwell, I feel like he knows Danny. Because he turns around, like he knows, like he senses something familiar. Like, I feel like I'm being watched by someone.
Why would he know Danny, though? Because they're in the real world at that point.
Because Danny's watched the movie 6 times. So maybe there's like... Because the movie's written by 10 different people, maybe that's one of the... Maybe that's one of the ideas they had that, yeah, the actor or the character in the movie recognizes the person in the audience. Or has a sense of them.
I mean, it could be. I don't know. But to answer your original question, I don't think that it's a Groundhog Day style thing where it's like they remember living
it's like
the movie over and over and over again. Yeah. But I do think that probably they have a memory the same way that you and I have a memory of things that happened in the past. There's a point in time, where that scene on the roof happened, and that there's a straight line from that point in time to the point in time where he is pulled out of the movie and begins his memories or his life in real life. So I think that that's probably what he's going off of, but I don't think that the characters are probably like at a level where they understand that they get played over and over and over again.
Yeah. Maybe I probably worded it wrong or probably pitched it wrong, but I do think they probably don't remember it, but they're sort of clearly. But I feel like they maybe have like a deja vu, like, I've done this before. I think they just mentioned this, and I don't know, you probably haven't watched it yet, but there's the Red Letter Media Part 2 of their Star Trek thing, where the Enterprise keeps blowing up.
Oh, no, I watched that this morning. Yeah, I know which episode that is, yeah.
Yeah, where they know they've lived that before, but they don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's what the characters are going through, or at least the Ripper is.
Yeah, because it's like they remember playing the same poker game, and they remember having the same interactions and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It could be like that. Yeah.
They don't hint on it enough though, because it's only brought up with the Ripper. So that's why I think it's another one of those situations where we have 6 writers in here, including Carrie Fisher, doing punch-up on the script.
Yeah. And William Goldman, who is the one that actually, if I'm remembering it correctly, was the one who introduced the Benedict character.
I believe so. Yes.
I think that's what it said in the article, but I don't remember. But yeah, so they paid him $1 million, and he came up with Benedict.
Money well spent, because Benedict is the best.
I said I have murdered a man, and I want to confess.
Did you like the Mario Van Peebles? Is it Mario or is it his father? Who's his father?
It's Melvin Van Peebles.
Yes,
Yeah.
sweet badass.
Yeah,
that guy.
Sweet Sweetbacks.
Yep.
Have you ever seen that movie?
I might have.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I know. I definitely read it in my movie book, 1001 Movies to See Before You Die. I definitely think it was mentioned in the Entertainment Weekly Top 50 Cult Classics. And I definitely know that there was a movie by his son that was, based on that or behind the scenes.
Yeah. There's a Mario did a film called Badass.
Yes.
And it was about the making of Sweetback's Badass song. I enjoyed it a lot. Sweetback's Badass song is like kind of weird and a little slow. You can very much tell that it was like very low budget, like we're just doing this with what we have, like we have a little bit of money, we have a little bit of film, everybody's chipping in, like it's that kind of thing. And there's yeah, you just need to watch it. I don't want to explain it or spoil anything for you. You just need to watch it. So
I don't think I finished my thought on it. So for the folks at home, the reason why I bring up that guy is because there's a cameo in Last Action Hero by that director, Melvin. He is the guy in the ambulance at the end of the movie, the black ambulance guy that Danny threatens. I said, turn around! And he's one of the guys who jumps out. That's just for the folks at home, because I'm sure me and Stewart knew who he was in the movie. But, because I'm sure there's people out there who don't know that.
It's kind of funny because I keep forgetting that there's folks at home. I keep my mind keeps switching into the gear of I'm just having a conversation with my friend Frank, and I keep forgetting that other people might listen to this at some point in time.
Yeah, I was surprised how many people, or how many of my friends have listened to it. At least I was shocked. I was like, oh my god, even Phil listened to it. That's incredible.
Yeah, I saw you said something about Phil listening to it, and I went back to it today and noticed that he had left a comment. Nice comment.
Yeah, I pinned it. I was like, this is historic.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see. I think I'm almost towards the end of my stuff. My last question was total. This is for your producer hat.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the creative choice to make Slater's shirt red was because at the end of the movie he gets shot in the chest? So to avoid an R rating, they made his shirt red.
No, I don't think so, and this is why. There is blood in that, and you could say that is the reason, but there's no blood in the entire rest of the movie. Everybody that gets shot, in the house,
right? Because that's why the shit hit the fan and it's real now. Because at the end, freaking blood is everywhere when he's in the ambulance.
Yeah. So I don't think it's particularly because of that one sequence where you see blood. I think honestly it was probably just something that had to do with Schwarzenegger, because in the article it talks about how he was super picky about everything that Jack Slater was associated with. Austin O'Brien was talking about the fact that they spent days just going around trying out different cars, trying to find the iconic car for him to do. And there was something about the boots, how he tried on so many different pairs of boots. So I don't know if it was, I don't think that the red shirt was specifically about the blood, although it could have been, but there was so little blood in the movie that one scene, and so many people get shot in that movie. I mean, tons of people get shot in that movie.
I think it's like you can see them get shot, but you can't see blood. And the only reason why I bring it up is because it's not for when he's in the ambulance, because by then most of it has been wiped off and it's just like smeared. But when he originally gets shot on the roof.
Yeah.
And it's like profusely bleeding. And like the rain is not helping because it looks like even worse than it is. Because everything's wet, so his shirt is wet, and that red really sticks out. So I was wondering, like, maybe is it an Evil Dead situation where that's why it rains blood? You know what I mean? Because in that movie Evil Dead 2013, for the folks at home, they wanted to avoid an X rating or unrated rating, so in order to get past the the chainsaw cutting through someone's head and blood spraying everywhere, they would just say, "Oh, it's rain, so we'll have it rain blood." So there's blood everywhere, so you can't say that's blood. We'll just say it's rain. That's just for the folks at home, because I'm sure folks at home they don't give two fucks about Evil Dead 2013.
Who does?
I do. I care. I care.
I care.
How does Luke say it? Luke Skywalker says, "I care." He doesn't care about anyone or anything. I care. But yeah, I was just wondering that because I was thinking like a producer. We have to shoot in Atlanta. I was like, I wonder if that's why they gave him the red shirt, because they knew that was going to happen at that point, at a certain point in the movie.
It could be. It could be.
Yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on it, but it sounds like you're like, nah, man, Arnold all the way, dude. So I agree with you. It could be Arnold, because I know Arnold's like, that's how he dresses nowadays. I remember on Instagram or Twitter, he was like, haha, look, I dressed like Jack Slater today, accidentally. And he had like the exact outfit on. It was like the red shirt, brown jacket and jeans, and the huge belt.
Yeah.
I think he even had the boots on. I was like, holy shit, if I seen that, I'd be like, ah! Head explodes.
Well, his daughter wears a red shirt, too.
Oh, yeah, but that's cute. That's just to match him.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
Hey, Dad! I heard you were here. I thought you could use some clothes.
Thanks, honey.
Wait a minute. No one finds this a little convenient?
Hey, kid, you always said this is a movie, didn't you?
I know her from other movies. I knew her from Billy Madison movie. I liked her in that. She was one of my early, film crushes. And she's in this movie, and she's in the, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Last summer.
She
dies in that. She shouldn't die, but she died in that movie. No reason to die.
She was in... Really? She was in I Know What You Did Last Summer?
She played the sister to... Oh, God, who's Buffy? The Buffy girl.
Oh,
Sarah Michelle Gellar. There you
go.
I like how my brain actually has to go through my files, like, the actress's name. It's like literally thumbing through files.
Hold on, I just gotta find the card.
Yeah, in my brain, it's an old 50s girl. She's just switching the lines.
Who smokes 2 packs a day?
No, she's the young one.
Hold on, I gotta find the card.
I gotta find the right connection. Please hold.
Please hold.
I know she's Buffy, and I know she was in Scooby-Doo, and she's married to Freddie Prinze Jr. Oh, there she is. Sarah Michelle Gellar. Oh, my God. And I've already mentioned how Arnold gives a shitty reason not to go back in the real world. There's no reason for him to stay in the movie world. There really isn't.
One thing that I wanted to get in real quick was one of my notes was on the cleverness of the writing.
Yes.
Because Benedict, in order to activate the bomb, Benedict pulls Leo the Fart's finger.
Yes! Oh my God, that's in my notes.
The bomb.
Holy shit, I had that in my notes, but I'm like, all right, we got to keep going. But yeah, I did notice that, and I thought that was so I'm like, that's a Shane Black joke. You fucking pulled the finger, and he activates Leo the Fart. Oh my God. So I think that's all we could talk about last section here. I think we've talked about everything we could possibly talk about it. I think this was a deep dive enough without actually doing like an audio commentary. Which we
well,
probably
we have
should
been
have.
talking for almost 3 hours, so...
Oh, yeah, that joke I made. I really thought Last Action Hero was 2 hours and 30 minutes or something. When I saw that it was only 2 hours, I'm like, you gotta get the fuck out of here. Because it feels longer. I love the movie, but it feels longer than 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because that third act, it slows way down. Because it's so fast-paced when they're in that movie world, and the fucking movie comes to a standstill when they come to the real world. Even though the real world stuff is really well done, it just comes to a standstill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now I remember. We're 2 hours and 49 minutes, guys, and I finally remembered, because early in the podcast I say, oh yeah, the Travis Bickle universe. No. Danny Madigan lives in the Paul Schrader universe. Does he not?
The Schraderverse.
Yes. Into the Schraderverse. Yeah. Oh my god. Someone make that movie. It was like 8mm.
Dude, that would be amazing.
Hardcore and oh god, the freaking Ethan Hawke movie.
First Reformed?
Yes. Oh, I remember you're like, did you see that movie? I'm like, no, I know how it ends.
Yeah,
and I told you how it ends. You're like, yeah. Oh my god.
I love First Reformed, but, it is what it is.
You're a Schrader fan. That's why.
Yeah.
Stewart, yeah. It's more like Stewart Schrader. Tell your captain.
Stewart Schrader.
Stewart Schrader. Schrader. Oh my god, but yes.
Schrader.
So Sony, if you're out there listening, please make Into the Schraderverse fully animated, where it's just like Nicolas Cage teaming up with First Reformed Ethan Hawke and the CGI recreation of George C. Scott from Hardcore. It'd be wonderful. And Travis Bickle, which they own the rights to because it's Columbia.
Yeah.
This is great. Into the Schraderverse. Make it happen, Hollywood.
I love it.
So, Stewart, what should be our next episode?
I don't know.
Or should we leave it to the audience?
That might be interesting. Do like an audience poll.
Yeah, like what do they want us to talk about? Yeah. Because I feel like we peaked.
2 episodes and we're already done.
Yes, that's all we need is 2 episodes. But yeah, sure, I think it probably would be interesting for the audience to, tell us. They probably want us to talk about, do Star Wars. Talk about Marvel.
Do a Star Wars.
Do Star Wars. Which I guess it would be interesting because...
I have an idea.
Oh, here we go.
Constantine.
Oh, yes, that's a Stewart episode.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. We can do. There's other stuff that we can do.
As William Friedkin say, no. No. Constantine, because I'm a Kananu fan, and I could finally dive into my Kananu fandom.
There you go.
The seeds have been planted. Oh my god, I'm excited.
Yeah.
So tune in next month, guys. And
it's coming.
It's coming.
If you want action, we got it. Last Action Hero. Now, the year's most action-packed movie is today's hottest video game for your Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis systems. And it's available only at your video store. So when you're returning this cassette, pick up the game and live the action.